And today I want to get into this idea. If you haven't noticed over the past few weeks, one concept that I continuously keep bringing up is this power of decision, right? In fact, March 11th, which was two Monday Morning Mojos ago, maybe it wasn't the 11th, but two Monday Morning Mojos ago, I talked about this whole mastering the mastering the moment of decision, and mastering pod, which is the patterns of decisions. And today, what I want to talk to you about are what's called multipliers and vampires. And you've probably all heard this before, people are energy vampires or people are energy multipliers. But what I want to give you today is kind of a structure for how your actions and your decisions are either multiplying your energy or they're acting as a vampire to your energy. So let me show this with you, or share this with you so you can see what I mean here, and I'll walk you through it. But if you'll notice, what we've got here are what we call the four classes of action. So if you'll look at each square as simply a class of action, each one of them has two separate, let's just say, definitions or contexts that make them up. So a class one, or in the zone, is something that you enjoy doing, meaning you like it. And number two, it's that it's good for me. It's something that it raises my energy, or it's something that's healthy, right? And so for some people that might be exercise. Like if you're a runner, going on a run is something that both you enjoy and it's good for you. A class two, which is right here, is something that maybe you don't enjoy, and yet it is good for you. So for some of you, exercise might be a class two experience here. And I know for me, yoga is definitely class two. I don't like it. In fact, I kind of hate it. And yet I make myself go because it's so good for me. And if you'll see here that these first two, the enjoy it, don't enjoy it, good for me, both are good for you, they make up the energy multiplier. So what that means is that they give you energy, which allows you to pursue your vision. Okay. Now, if we move into class three and class four, the first one, class three, these are things that you enjoy, and yet they're not good for you. So ice cream, for example, is something that a lot of people enjoy, but isn't good for them. And if you'll notice, these types of actions are typically destructive habits or destructive actions. And I don't mean to say that you should never do them, but I'm going to show you an auditing process that you can use this on to see where the majority of your actions ultimately lie. And then lastly, we have the things that you don't enjoy and that aren't good for you. And this is where a lot of addiction comes into play. Some of you have heard me talk about this before. Maybe somebody who's like smoked their entire lives and they can barely breathe, but they continue to smoke because it's just so habitual. But if you'll notice, these class three and class fours both have a common thread, which is they aren't good for you and they're energy vampires. So they zap your energy. And so the question that I would ultimately beg you to take this and use this on is, I want you to take it through your week and use it as a way to audit your disciplines and habits. Now, disciplines and habits are what make up your actions. Now, I'm not talking about what you intend to do, right? So I'm talking about your video, what you actually do. And the difference between a discipline and a habit is very simple. A discipline is a decision that you have to think about. So think of it like manual. If you've ever driven a stick shift car, you've heard me talk about this. It's a manual decision, something you have to consciously think about. A habit is an automatic decision. So you don't think about it. And if you look at those two things, discipline and habits, they make up all your actions. And so what I'd like for you to do is to look at 4 areas of your life And I would like for you to grade them through the 4 classes of experience. Now, what you'll notice here is that I've coined each one, like this one is the zone, right? That's when you enjoy it and it's good for you. Growth, destruction, and death. And so the 4 areas of action that I want you to look at and ultimately audit and label, the first one is how you eat. So look at your nutrition. Are you somebody who has a very well thought out nutritional template, who's eating to a very healthy long-term plan? Or are you one of those people who just kind of wakes up and eats on the run? Most of your diet may consist of like high processed or fast food. But I want you to look at how you eat, and not every once in a while, but consistently, which of these 4 experiences make up your eating habits, your nutrition habits. The second one that I want you to look at is how you relax. Because what I've noticed, particularly through the pandemic, that there are a lot of people who relax through alcohol, which I'm not here to be an evangelist and say drinking is bad. And yet the long-term effects of habitual alcohol use, even if you're not considered to be an alcoholic, there are no real health benefits beyond maybe 1 glass of wine a day. And beer has no health benefits at all, neither does liquor. And yet I would like to know how you relax. Are you somebody who relies on, binge watching Netflix and drinking alcohol? Or are you somebody who relaxes through reading a good book and meditating or going on a walk? How do you do that? The next one is how you spend your money. So do you spend your money in these class 3 ways where you're out having really great dinners and, you are making it, but spending it as quickly as you can make it? Are you somebody who's following a long-term investment plan and is saving so that one day you'll become optionally employed? And I shouldn't have said saving, I meant to say investing. And then the last one I want you to look at is how you have fun. So when you think about having an open day, right? Or maybe you go on vacation, how do you typically have fun? When you think about, if I could spend the entire day doing whatever it is that I wanted, would your fun be made up by a class 1, class 2, class 3, or class 4 experience? Because if you look at those 4 areas, again, how you eat, how you relax, your money, and how you have fun, and the majority of your actions are sitting over here, well, then you're on a path of being in a zone and growth. You're on a path that over time, unless something happens to you, you're going to have a really great, magnificent life. You are an example, right? Somebody could look at you and go, that's the way I should do it. But if you look at those 4 areas and most of your actions are made up of these over here, right? Then you're a warning. Then people should look at you and go, that's how I shouldn't live. That's not the path I should take. And so here's the question. If you go through and audit your actions, remember, actions are simply disciplines and habits. In these 4 areas, the question is, which path do your actions tell us you are on? And remember, there's 4 paths. There's the zone, growth, destruction, and death. Now, I don't mean to be kind of a doomsdayer here, and yet I want you to have a happy, healthy, fulfilled life. In fact, I came up with this little mantra that I've been living by, that all of us should just, and we should all bring into our lives a little bit more H2O. H2O, health, happiness, and ownership. Health, happiness, and ownership. And I think if you did that, what's going to happen, if you especially pay attention to some of your habitual actions, see, all change goes through 3 steps. The first one is awareness. The second one is acceptance, which is ownership, right? And then lastly are the actions that you'll take. and think of those as your practices that vote for the person that you ultimately intend to be. But I have two favorite quotes. One of them is, everyone you meet is fighting a great battle that you know nothing about, so be kind always. My second one is this one right here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And this is the whole premise behind My Free Life, the entire thing. You know, at MAPS, we talk about how people are creative, resourceful, and whole. And I was asked to speak to a group of coaches, and I said, you know, one of the biggest challenges that you all have is that you ask "are you" questions instead of "prevent you" questions. Because if somebody's creative, resourceful, and whole, what that means is that they have the tools that they ultimately need to live a successful, happy, fulfilled life. They have that stuff. So what the question is what's preventing you? How have you covered that up? Versus, are you doing whatever the actions are, right? And that's just an endless stream of consciousness that coaches like to talk about and makes them feel good and smart, but it doesn't give the clients a whole lot of results. So just to recap on this, you guys, the first thing is, are we in multiplier or are we in vampire? How do your actions contribute to your energy? And then secondly, I want you to look at those 4 areas: how you're eating, how you're relaxing, how you're spending or your money, and then lastly, how you have fun, and audit this. Answer the question, which path does my actions ultimately tell me that I'm on? And then use this simple formula to change. As the awareness comes up, start to really work through a new plan of action that will allow you to live in the zone and growth, because this is where we all ultimately want to be.